Hello everyone, welcome back to Disasters and DIYs. My name is Janie and this is Oliver, and we're going to show you a real quick sneak peek of what kind of DIYs we have in store for you today. So sit tight and let's see what we got going on. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make these quick and easy bee-themed projects using mostly Dollar Tree and Walmart supplies. Please check out my description box below for a list of all the supplies I used in this video. Well, there you have it, guys. 2 bee-themed DIYs. Getting ready to show you how they're done. If you end up liking what you see today, please make sure and hit that subscribe button, like the video, and leave us your comments and let us know what you think. We love to hear from you. So sit back, relax, and let's get into these DIYs. DIY number 1. In this first project, we're going to take this spool of rope that I bought from Walmart and this giant Easter egg bank that I found at my local Goodwill. And we're going to make 2 beehives using both halves of this piggy bank. So using some hot glue and the rope, I'm going to start off with a generous amount of hot glue at the edge of the top portion of the piggy bank. And I'm going to make sure that my rope is nice and secure, and I'm going to just basically go around the circumference of this half of the egg and completely cover it with the nautical rope. And you can see right here I'm kind of taking the glue and I'm using it to try to help get that end a little bit more kind of streamlined and together, so whenever the rope reaches around and meets, you don't see as much of a gap. Here you're going to see me take the string of glue and I'm going to put it right along that very tip edge because I want that rope to cover every part of the egg, but I don't want it to hang down too much where it makes it uneven whenever I set it down flat like so. So this is the section that I was referring to when I first started with trying to make sure that that piece is flattened down. So when I go to cross them together, I actually need to jump up and start a new row, but I want to make sure that I'm not leaving a gap right there at the end of where I started. So it was very important that those areas kind of meshed together really well and you weren't able to see any gaps in the rope. As you can see here, I have covered the egg about halfway up, and I'm gonna cut this piece off, glue it down really well and make sure the ends aren't frayed, because now I need to attach the top handle piece, and I need to do it at this step so I'm able to cover over it with the remaining wraps of the rope. And so right here, I'm just taking a piece of rope and I'm trying to figure out about how large I want my loop to be at the top of my hive. And then once I, decide that that's the size that I wanted, I glued it together right there where it crosses and then attaching it to the top part of my hive. And you can see on the sides there with the rope that's hanging down, I'm going to have to untwist those pieces so I don't have big, huge, bulky spots right there when I go to cover over it with the rope that will wrap around all the way up to the top. And now I have my handle piece secured on top and the little edges of the rope there, secured. I am just going ahead and starting where I left off and continuing to wrap all the way around the rest of the hive, up through covering those ends and the rest of the green part of the egg until it's completely covered. With the egg completely covered with the rope, my hive is looking very much like a hive now. So I need to make a hole for the bees to be able to enter and exit out of the hive. And to give that illusion, I'm going to, you can see here, I'm cutting a piece of rope and I'm going to secure it together with some hot glue to form a circle. And that area there that I had to cut when I stopped midway to create my handle, where the two pieces of rope meet, is the perfect area for me to use as my hive opening. So once I get the two ends secured together with hot glue, I'm going to take my circle and place it where the place where the two pieces of rope meet is right in the middle of my circle. Now, hindsight, looking back at this project, I could have placed my circle where one of the edges of the rope would have covered over that meeting place completely, and that would have worked just as well too, but my remedy for it ended up working out nicely. With my circle attached, giving my hive a hole, now I'm just taking some black paint. I used, I think it was the Waverly ink chalk paint, and I am just generously applying that paint in the center of that circle so it gives the illusion that the hive, that is an actual hole and an honest opening that bees can come in and out of. And the black paint also hides and camouflages the two ends where the rope met together, and I had to connect them. So to create a bow for the top of my hive, I'm using some black and white buffalo check ribbon that I had purchased. I believe I got this at Michael's at Christmas time. I might have caught it at the end of the season on sale. I honestly can't remember. But I want to make a bow that's nice and fluffy, but just is not too overwhelming for the hive. And so I decided how long I wanted. And I think I used about 5 inches, and I just looped the pieces of the ribbon over on top of each other. And as you can see there, at first I had it a little bit too long, so because I would have ended up with a really huge bow, and I didn't want that. I didn't want it to be all bow. I wanted it to be, just an accent for my hive. So I undid it all and then took it down to, I think it's probably more about like 4.5 inches now. And I just did several loops, probably about 4 loops on each side of the ribbon, just rolling it right on top of each other. And when I get it all rolled up together, I'll take my scissors, I'll fold it in half so I can find my center piece. And then I will take my scissors and I will cut a notch, just a very small notch on each side of the ribbon. So when I attach my pipe cleaner to it, the pipe cleaner can hold it together and the ribbon won't slip whenever I start to pull it apart and twist it to create my fluffy loops. So here you can see the pipe cleaner. I'm just taking it and I'm inserting it in those little slits that I put on the edges. And you've got to be very careful because you don't want those slits to be too wide, because you will end up ripping your ribbon and all this effort will just be out the window. So once you get it all twisted and secured, then you just separate out the loops. I start from the middle and I pull it out each loop, and when I pull it I kind of twist it, and then I go and I pull it to the other side and I just give it a little twist, and I just continually do that from one side to the other, just twisting it each time I do it. And then once I get that side done, I flip it over and I do the same thing to the other side. And then once all of the loops have been separated and have been twisted, I hold on to it by the pipe cleaner and just fuss with it and fluff it to make it look the way I want it to. The fluffing and the pulling apart and twisting is the most important part to a fluffy, beautiful bow. You can see here now how I'm holding it with the pipe cleaner, and I'm just, twisting those little loops around, and I'm fluffing them, and I'm placing them exactly where I want them to, so I have just a nice symmetrical, fluffy little bow that will look nicely on the top of the hive. And then I'll take that pipe cleaner, and that's what I'll use to attach it to the handle that I created on the hive. So for a nice finishing touch, I'm going to dovetail the end of my ribbon. And so by dovetailing, you just fold the ribbon in half and you cut up the ribbon, and it gives it a nice little V, which gives it a finishing touch and just gives your bow that high-end look. taking these small yellow little flowers. I believe these are some of the flowers that I got on my haul that I did at Dollar Tree on my recent trip that Mr. DIY and I took in March. And I cut them apart, and you know, because it's easier to place the flowers where you want them to be and strategically place them if you can cut them apart. So I cut them apart and cut the stems down and started placing them in various places throughout the bow, just adding that little pop of yellow color to my black and white buffalo check bow. So a beehive is not complete without some bees. I found these cute little Thumbtack bees on Amazon. They are the cutest little things, and so I thought these would go perfectly on my beehive. And they worked out pretty slick because of the fact that they were thumbtacks. So I was able to, you know, insert them down into the bow and into the rope and various places. And so it was kind of extra, it gave extra stability to them because I put a little dot of glue and then put the tack down in the middle of the glue, which then went into the rope or the ribbon, and it worked pretty slick because it made them stay on there really, really nicely. I used one of the bees as a way to cover the seam where I had to glue together the two ends of my rope that created the hole for my hive. So that was a pretty cool trick that I thought of last minute, and the bee worked out perfectly. You couldn't even see the seam. The beehive is all complete. Look at all of those fun bees flying around there. The black paint right in the center of the circle gives the beehive the illusion like that's a hole, and those bees are working, going in and out of their hive, creating some honey. All the rope twisted around there, it gives it such a nice touch. I love how the bow turned out, and the yellow florals just brings out the color of the bees together. I couldn't be happier with how this turned out. You can see here both sides of the egg and both beehives and how they turned out. You can create this very same look just by using plastic flower pots. If you can find some that are in a shape that you like, they would make an awesome beehive as well. I hope you really like this DIY as much as I do. DIY number 2. This next DIY, I'm going to create a sign using a page out of the farmer's market calendar that was sold at Dollar Tree last fall. It was quite the hot commodity, and I was lucky enough to get my hands on one. The sign that I'm using is the back of a Halloween sign that I purchased at Dollar Tree when I was visiting my girlfriend in Seattle in October. So you can see right here, I'm just basically fitting the page of the calendar onto my sign and creasing the edge so I have a good place to kind of cut off excess. Here in a little bit you're going to see me tear the edges, so this is just a step, an extra step just so I have less paper to have to tear later. I'm going to go around with some Waverly Cashew chalk paint, and I'm going to paint only the edges of my sign. The reason I paint only the edges is for 2 reasons really. One, to save paint, but then also because on the other side of the honey picture is the lines of the calendar. And because the paper is so thin, if you paint the sign white, the brown lines from the calendar will show through. So this is an extra little trick that I learned from some of my other DIY ladies. Here you can see, as I mentioned previously, I'm ripping the edges. I want to do this because when I Mod Podge it onto my sign, the ripped edges make it kind of blend into the wood better and gives it the illusion that it's all painted on there, that it's not a piece that has been glued on. To give my sign more of a finished look, I'm going to cover the backside with some brown shipping paper. You can see this sign is it's pretty glittery and all the colors of Halloween, and I don't really want the back of my sign to look like that because it just, to me, looks tacky. And the brown paper gives it more of a finished look. So I covered it pretty good with some hot glue, and I'm just pressing it down on that brown shipping paper, getting it secured nicely. And then I'm going to take my box cutter, or I guess it's an X-Acto knife is more like it, and I'm just taking it around the edge of the sign and trimming that brown paper off so it has a nice clean finish. Now I'm going to Mod Podge my sign onto, or excuse me, my calendar page onto my sign. So I'm dumping a generous amount. I'm using matte Mod Podge, and I'm spreading it around the area that I'm going to place my calendar page down on. Now this calendar page, as I mentioned, is pretty thin, and it wrinkled when I put it down on the Mod Podge, which was perfectly okay for this project because I want this project to look battered and worn, and so the wrinkles just kind of added to the character. And here I'm just giving it a nice coat of Mod Podge just to make sure that it's nice and sealed. And to give it a little bit more of a worn look, because you know how I love my rustic distressing, I'm taking my finger sander and I'm going around all of the edges, and you're going to see I'm going to actually use the sandpaper on the sign itself, on the page itself, and go over some of those wrinkles so it wears in those spaces and gives it a nice old distressed look. Now to take it one step further, I'm going to distress it even more using my Waverly Antique Wax chalk paint and my chip brush, and I'm just going to go around and, you know, kiss the edges of the sign with that antique wax. I'm going to go over the page of, you know, the calendar page, and, you know, really hit those wrinkled areas and all the places that I sanded, really antiquing this and giving it an old, worn, rustic look. That look that I just absolutely love. To take some florals that I got. These I believe I bought all at Walmart, and I've cut them apart like I do with many of my flower arrangements, and I'm placing them along the top part of the sign. This is also covering up the 2 holes that was in the sign to begin with, that had a like a jute string hanger that was attached to it whenever in its original state. So here I'm just taking each piece of the florals and placing them together the way that I think that they look nice. And then once I get them together, I'm going to take a piece of floral wire and wrap it around the center of where the flowers meet to secure them together. So it makes it easier to attach to the sign when it's time to attach it. Using a generous amount of hot glue, I'm going to place a nice amount right there in the middle and secure my florals down to my sign. I found this ribbon at Dollar Tree on our recent road trip that we took in March, and I thought it was really pretty because it was just simple little burlap thin ribbon, and I'm just taking it and I'm making 2 loops on each side, and then I'm going to secure it together in the middle. Just basically a simple 2-loop bow is all I'm going to create for the center of my florals. My ribbon together in the center, I am taking just a tiny little zip tie and I'm wrapping it around the center of the bow and zipping it down nice and snug. I'll trim off that extra little end that once I snug it down, then I'll take a piece of ribbon and cut it just enough to wrap around that zip tie and kind of camouflage it, and I'll use some hot glue on the back to secure it. As I mentioned before, I'm taking some hot glue and just kind of securing that center piece together, covering up that zip tie. I got my nice finger protector out to use because holding that down, I could burn myself really easy. Once I got the center all covered, I am attaching my bow right into the center of my florals. I'll give it a little bit of a fluffing, and yeah, it's just sitting there. It looks so cute. It was a nice finishing touch. Now I went in and I looked and I felt like it needed just a little bit something more right there where that ribbon attached. So I'm adding a few more little yellow flowers just to finish it off and give it that last little pop of color there at the top. I thought on the ribbon there would be a perfect little spot to stick one of those cute little bee thumbtacks that I used on the hives in the previous project. So right there you can see I'm just adding a little dollop of hot glue and putting a sweet little bee right there in the middle of my ribbon. I felt like the bottom of my sign needed a little something, and so I wanted to step it up another little notch and add another little embellishment down below. So I have these little wooden bees. They came in a pack that I actually found at the Goodwill. It had bees and dragonflies, and I believe the third one was the ladybug. I'm not sure. But anyways, I took some yellow acrylic paint and a chip brush, and I just kind of lightly painted over it with some yellow. And here I'm taking some black acrylic paint with a fine brush and giving it some black accents so my bee has nice detail. And then here in a minute you're going to see me attach it right at the bottom part of my sign. Here you can see my sign displayed nicely next to my beehive. They make such a cute little set. And as I come in closer, you can see the details of the ribbon and the fun little bee there in the middle and all of the pretty florals that just kind of really give a fine touch. Look at all of that distressing. I love all the wrinkles. It just makes it look old and beat up. And there's my sweet little bee that I painted. If you like these DIYs, please make sure and comment down below and like this video. Let me know which one you liked the best. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and share with your friends, guys. Thank you so much for being with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care, and I'll see you again soon. Now you've seen a little sneak peek about what I'm... Come on, get your crap together. Oliver, we gotta get our crap together. Okay. Hello, hello everyone. Welcome back to Disasters and DIYs. Oliver. No kisses. No kisses. Libber, I need you to come back here. I need you to help. I need you to help. I apologize, but I promise you this video will be...
You still cooking?
I just started cooking.
Oh.
I was editing.
That's fine. I have more stuff to do. I thought maybe you came down because you wanted to tell me it's time for dinner.
Dexter, the camera's rolling and you're in the way. Dexter, can you move?
Dexter, come here.
Thank you.
Come on, bud. Alright, sorry to interrupt.
No worries, Mr. DIY. Oh, Oliver, oh my God, go. Okay. Hello, 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 everyone.
You want liver?
No, thank you.